I've just seen Wiki for good, and I would like to share my first thoughts on the movie with you. I would like to share what I liked and what I didn't like. You need to know that I've seen the musical, I knew the story, I knew what was going to happen, so the plot twists did not surprise me. So what did I like? I loved that similar to the first movie where we got a glimpse into Elphaba's childhood and dreams. In this movie we got a glimpse into Glinda's childhood and dreams. It helped me to understand her character better, how her childhood dreams and aspirations shaped her character and her personality. I also loved Glinda's new song, The Girl in the Bubble. I loved how it showcased her thought process, how she arrives to the place where she understands that she needs to make a change, needs to become real, needs to become really good. It was nice to see how she thinks things through and arrives to the place where she understands that she needs to let go of chasing popularity and she needs to put emphasis on the real things. And it was also nice to see that although it was buried very deep inside, she actually has good values, and now finally she decides to make way for those good values to come out, and she starts to prioritize other things than she used to. So finally she starts to become real instead of being fake and artificial. To be honest, I was quite surprised how much I was involved into Glinda's journey, because originally my favorite character was Elphaba. Because of my own past, I could identify with Elphaba. But during the film, it was just surprisingly touching for me, seeing everything that Glinda goes through and all the heartbreaks that she has to go through. And let's be honest, lots of times she caused those heartbreaks to herself. For example, her completely fake relationship with Fiyero was her own fault, because she was basically not paying attention to another person and just forcing him into things that he did not really want to do. Of course, it's coming down to both of them, because Fiyero wasn't able to stand up for himself for so long and just went along with what Glinda wanted. So it comes down to both of them, but it was nice to see how Glinda matures so much during the second movie. When it comes to the cinematography, I think the same song, The Girl in the Bubble, stands out. We can say that basically nothing happens in that scene. Glinda is just looking into the mirror and just walking up and down, but it's just such a big contrast between the popular song when she looks into the mirror and says that, oh, hello. And we can see that self-absorbed, self-obsessed girl. And now we see a person who finally starts to see the real things. And she's matured a lot. And you can see that now finally she becomes real. So this scene was beautifully choreographed with all of the mirrors and how she looks into the mirrors, and then the scene changes, and it was emotionally really touching and really effective. My other favorite scene is where they made a parallel between Glinda's wedding and how Elphaba discovers the dungeon. I loved how they were cutting back and forth between the two locations. It was so effective seeing how Glinda walks down the stairs to this extravagantly decorated room, which is kind of just a sugar coating of the truth, which Elphaba discovers by walking down the stairs to that very cold, very dark place and discovering the caged animals. And so seeing what was under the sugar coating, that was just so effective how they did this scene. I think it was emotionally very touching and very effective. And the third scene that stood out for me was the For Good song scene. To be honest, in the first movie they ruined Defying Gravity for me. They chunked up Defying Gravity into so many pieces, and because of this they ruined the raw power of that song. While watching the staged version, I was crying my eyes out. When I watched the film, I was like, I didn't even shed a tear. So I was so happy that they actually kept For Good very minimalistic. Sometimes you don't need anything else, just show the actor's face, show the emotion of the actor's face, and we don't need anything else. It was so much more effective than Defying Gravity, to be honest. I also loved the poppy field scene. Although it was very short, it showcased nicely that they actually spent a lot of time together. So for example, it showcased that Actually, Elphaba's and Fiero's love had a good foundation because they spent a lot of time together, so they had time to get to know each other. And the very last moment in the film was absolutely magical, how they recreated the original Broadway poster. I was just, wow. It was such a nice nod to the original production. It was very, very touching. And I think that's the perfect ending for the film. I absolutely loved the visuals. Similar to the first one, the visuals were absolutely stunning. The set design and the dresses were just amazing. My favorite costumes were the ones that Madame Morrible wore. I would love to wear those dresses myself. So after all this praise, what I didn't like about Wicked for Good, I was extremely disappointed about how they handled the song As Long As You're Mine. How can you show them apart for half of the song when Elphaba sings Kiss Me Too Fiercely, Hold Me Too Tight, when the lyrics is about having deep intimacy and being so much in love that you are on fire, and then, you know, she's just undressing and just singing to herself. What the hell? They were not even looking at each other. That was so strange for me, and that wasn't romantic at all, and it just threw me off completely, and I couldn't get back to the emotion even for the second half of the song. I think toning this song down so much like this was just an extremely bad decision and a missed opportunity. I would have preferred if they would have shown them, you know, when they arrive at Elphaba's place, just show them chatting a little bit or discussing some things a little bit, and then kiss and have an embrace, and then start the song, because then we have the foundation for the lyrics. So yeah, that was horribly done, I think. I'm really sorry. Interestingly, Elphaba's new song, No Place Like Home, was not effective for me either. Maybe that's just because of my own past, because I left home, so I actually think that there are better places like your home of origin. And also, I think the fighting scene when Glinda and Elphaba was fighting, it was just so stupid. I understand that they wanted to add some fun into this film as well, but for me, it just did not land, to be honest, so the whole thing was just flat. And there's one thing that bothers me even from the first movie. I'm wondering about if the vocals were digitally manipulated after they were recorded, because in some songs they were, you know, in perfect pitch, perfectly sang, but the emotion wasn't really there. So everything was perfect, but I did not feel the emotion in the voice. And that's very strange for me as a singer, because we know that Cynthia and Ariana are absolutely fantastic singers. And, you know, when I've heard them singing live, for example, there is a BBC recording of Cynthia at the Royal Albert Hall, and she is just crushing it. And the emotions are there. In the songs in the film, sometimes I did not feel the emotion at all. I felt this kind of plastic quality, and you know that usually happens when the vocals are digitally manipulated in post-production, for example, using autotune or something similar. So I'm wondering if they did this. If they did it, I think that was a bad decision, because everybody in the whole cast, except Michelle Yeoh, whom I absolutely love. I think she did an extremely good job, but she cannot sing. So anyway, everybody in the cast, apart of her, can sing. And in my opinion, as a singer, you shouldn't process a singer's voice through autotune or similar technologies, because it takes out the nuances of the human voice that actually gives it the humanity and actually gives it the emotion. And as an audience, helps you to feel the emotion of the song. If you listen to the original Broadway cast's recording, there are so much more emotion in the voice. And you know, I'm not talking about the choices that they make, how they sing the same song, but you can hear the emotion, the raw emotion in the Broadway cast's recording compared to the film. So if they did this, I'm not happy about that because we have two amazing vocalists. So just give me their raw voice, give me the raw emotion. Anyway, what is my opinion? Is Wicked for good, wickedly good? Not for me, I'm sorry. It's a good film, it's a solid film, but it's not wickedly good. I think there were a couple of missed opportunities in the film. And also, I personally prefer the first one over the second one, but I preferred the first act in the staged version as well over the second act. Maybe it's not right to compare the two movies because the first one is much lighter and the second one is much darker. Basically, everything goes wrong for the characters and they are at a different stage of their lives. So maybe you cannot really compare the two, but anyway, this is my opinion. I prefer the first one. How about you? What do you think about the movie? What do you think about the changes they made compared to the original musical? And which one is your favorite, the first one or the second one? Let me know in the comments, I'm curious. I'm also curious about what do you think about my Defying Gravity cover. So watch it next and then let me know. See you there!